Megan McKenna is a wonderful storyteller. And she weaves in her own theology and her own thoughts on things. This book is called Advent, Christmas, and Epiphany. It's stories and reflections on the Sunday readings. And she has just some wonderful thoughts on Epiphany. Let me share her opening comments with you. The light has come to us. Although it is still dark in the world, although evil and death still have their time, the light cannot be contained. It will burst forth like the sun breaking over the mountains, and glory will stream across the earth. It is the time of the manifestation, the showing forth of the glory of God. It is time for us to stand and lift our faces to the light, to the sun, S-U-N, of justice, and to let the face of God make our faces radiant and set our hearts throbbing with life and hope.
The scripture reading this morning is from Matthew chapter 2, 1 through 12. After Jesus' birth, which happened in Bethlehem of Judea during the reign of Herod, astrologers from the east arrived in Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the newborn ruler of the Jews? We observed his star at its rising and have come to pay homage." At this news, Herod became greatly disturbed, as did all of Jerusalem. Summoning all of the chief priests and religious scholars of the people, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem of Judea," they informed him. "He is what the prophet has written. And you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the leaders of Judah, since from you will come a ruler, who is to shepherd to my people, Israel." Herod called the astrologers aside and found out from them the exact time of the star's presence, then sent them to Bethlehem, having instructed them, "Go and get detailed information about the child. When you have found him, report back to me, so that I may go and offer homage too." After their audience with the ruler, they set out. The star, which they had observed at its rising, went ahead of them until it came to a standstill over the place where the child lay. They were overjoyed at seeing the star, and upon entering the house found the child with Mary, his mother. They prostrated themselves and paid homage. Then they opened their coffers and presented the child with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. They were warned in a dream not to return to Herod, so they went back to their own country by another route.
Would you pray with me? Holy One, help us to be in touch with ourselves, aware of what goes on within us as we walk the days of our lives, as we make decisions. May you inform our actions and our thoughts and our words. And as we listen for the movement of your Spirit this morning, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of each of our hearts be filled with your grace and your wisdom. Amen. Gosh, I couldn't have timed that chiming any better, could I? Love it when a plan comes together. So Epiphany, the story of the magi and the stars, and following to find this new king that would bring hope to a world of oppression. It's a great story, but there's much more to it than the simple, innocent story that Christmas pageants and our Christmas cards put forth. Because it's not simply a story of God's light breaking into the world in the form of a child. It's also about the darkness that exists It's about shadows, and it's about hatred, and it's about greed and power and evil. Yes, there's this divine peace and the recognition at Epiphany that God is present with us in all kinds of ways. But Epiphany is also a reminder that there is darkness out there that would like to cover up or ignore or extinguish the light that exists. There's a struggle that happens in this story that we tend to gloss over and forget, and yet it's the struggle of our lives, it's the struggle of our world. And it behooves us to pay attention to that and hear what message the story has for us today. Perhaps what encouragement, what hope it might give us today. And we know intellectually that God's presence is with us everywhere and within us. We also know intellectually that it's hard to stay connected to that light because there are things that would draw us away. There are voices that would speak to us and send us in a different direction or ask us to do things that perhaps is not in the best interests of the common good. And so the story today is not simply light. It's light and darkness, it's all of it. How many of you have seen the new Star Wars movie? A couple of you? How many of you have seen the old Star Wars movies? Tell me everybody's at least seen one. The first one? All right. Well, no spoilers here, but we saw the latest Star Wars movie a couple weeks ago. And there's a line in that movie that stuck with me long after the movie was over. It happens when sort of our two main characters are having one of their conversations. And it's Ben Solo, who, has been turned to the dark side, right? And he's talking to the heroine, Rey, who is the last Jedi, who's helping to vanquish the First Order. And so you've got these two characters, and Ben looks at Rey and he says, "There is darkness in us." And when you're sitting in the theater, you're going, yeah, I know there's darkness in both of them, but we're on the edges of our seats because what do we also know? We also know that there's light in them. And we're sitting there going, choose the light, right? I thought I did that in my inside voice, but maybe not. Because we know that it's a choice. It's a choice that we make, that we can consciously make, to choose to go down the path of Darth Vader and the evil empire, or Luke Skywalker, right? It's a choice. There's light and darkness in all of us, but we have choices to make. And I'm the first one to admit that sometimes I have a hard time with the voices of light because the voices of darkness tend to get really loud. And they're all about your ego, and they want to draw us down a certain path. There's energy and emotions and feelings within us that can lead us down either direction, right? So if you're standing at a crossroads, if you have a decision to make about how you're going to behave, what words you're going to say, which path you're going to take, what are the emotions and feelings that will send you down an expansive, positive path of light? Hope. Hope. If I take this path, it's going to be better than not. Might not be easy. Rarely is. What else? What sends you down? What do you feel inside that encourages you to go down that path of light?
Compassion.
Compassion. None of the rest of you are going down the path. Love.
Thankfulness.
Thankfulness. Gratitude. Support. A decision to want to care for another.
Past experiences.
Past experience. I know what happens if I go that way. That's kind of negative reinforcement. It could be. Yes, that's true. It could be positive. I went the sea. I go to the dark. All right. So maybe she said gratitude. Maybe understanding. All of that leads you down an expansive path where what happens if you take that path? You know, what are your actions? You're helping others, right? Or forgiving others. You're being kind. You're being generous. Those are all an expansive, beautiful way to live. So, but you take a look down that other path and you go, you know, there are times where that path looks pretty good. Because what's fueling the other path? Anger. I have so had it with this book, but I'm going to get them good, and so I'm going this way. The heck with forgiveness and love and compassion. What else? What else feeds you down the dark path? I'm sorry you're all the dark path this morning.
Self-righteousness.
Self-righteousness. Could be.
Resentment.
Resentment.
You want revenge.
You want revenge. So it's again that anger.
Guilt.
Guilt?
Both sides, actually.
Yeah, it could be a motivator down either side.
Sometimes it's easier.
Sometimes it's easier. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to be nice, generous, kind. Woundedness will lead you down the darker path. Annoyance. You ever just get, this is like road rage to the nth degree, right? You're just so annoyed that that's the road you're going down. But if you follow that path, that darker path, it's constrictive and it's limiting and it's negative, and it leads to consequences that involve harsh words and violence and lashing out or pulling in. Nothing that's hope-filled or joy-filled. And when you start to look at it, you wonder why you ever choose that path at all, except that perhaps it's easier. It feeds your ego. And like I said, sometimes I find myself going there because those voices in my ego are strong and they're angry and so I'm going down that path and either I pull in and I pull away because of how I'm feeling, or worse yet, I lash out because I'm hurt inside, or because I want to avoid getting hurt. So you hurt first. You strike first, right? And then invariably afterwards I feel awful. And I'm disappointed in myself. And then I start to think that there is darkness in me. And sometimes the biggest mistake we can make is to believe that all that's in us is darkness. That if we make one bad choice or one wrong turn, that it means that all of us is full of darkness. And I go down the path of, well, I'm not worthy to be loved. I'm not worthy of someone's friendship. I'm not worthy to be standing up here trying to tell you anything. Because there is darkness in me. And yet my hope is you're all out there going, but there's light in you too! Kaye, turn to the light! Right? That's what the community is for. It's for us to band together and go, Mike, turn to the light. Take the light to see the light. There's a story about a very wise man named Junaid. He was a wise master who had many, many disciples. And he taught them how to sing and play music and how to dance and how to write poetry. And he taught them spiritual disciplines of fasting and praying and begging for their sustenance, and seeing beauty in the world, and experiencing the ecstatic wonder of the Holy One in their midst. But the Master had a favorite disciple. He had one that he loved more than any of the others, and he didn't hide it. He treated this one disciple different. He gave him the best seat at the table and the best portions of food. He spent more time with him. He asked him to go for walks and to talk. And the other disciples saw this, and they got jealous, and they got angry, and eventually they got so upset that they just started shunning this beloved disciple. Well, one day, the Master called all of them together, and he said, I have a task for you to do. And it's important that you follow my instructions very, very, bless you, carefully. He said, I want you to go into the marketplace, and I want you to buy a chicken, and then I want you to take the chicken home and kill it with nobody seeing. And then I want you to come back, and you're going to share what you did. But we're not going to share until everybody's back. Well, they all went off, and one disciple was back within the hour. He thought he was the best disciple. It's like, well, that was easy. And then pretty soon another devoted disciple was back after that, and another, and they all were coming back until finally there was one missing, and it was the beloved disciple. And they were making fun of him, and they were laughing about him, and deriding him. Well, what's so hard about killing a chicken with nobody watching? Finally, this beloved disciple came back. Chicken under his arm. Tears in his eyes. And the ridicule and the derision from everybody else was horrible. The Master came in and he called everybody together and he asked them to report in. And then the disciple who got back first reported, he said, well, I went to the marketplace and I got my chicken and I went home and I locked the door and I pulled the curtains and the blinds and I killed the chicken. And the next disciple got up and said, well, I did all of that, but after I closed the curtains and the blinds, I went in the closet and I killed the chicken. And then the next person said, well, I did all of that, but once I got in the closet, I blindfolded myself. And then I killed the chicken. And the ones that took a little bit longer said, well, they went way off in the woods and they killed the chicken. Or they went to the deepest, darkest cave that they knew of and they killed the chicken. Well, finally they'd all gone except the beloved disciple. And he stood there, tears running down his face, his voice trembling, and the chicken under his arm. And he said, Master, I tried. I tried to do exactly what you asked me to do. He said, I went to the marketplace and I bought a chicken, as you can see. And then I went home and I locked the door and I pulled the blinds and I pulled the curtains. But there was a presence with me. And so I couldn't kill the chicken. So I went in the closet. But the presence felt closer to me and stronger. So I blindfolded myself. But even then, the presence was stronger and more bold than ever before. So I ran out of the house and I ran into the deepest, darkest forest I could find. But the presence was still there. And so I found a cave and I went deep into the cave. And still the presence was there. There wasn't anywhere I could go, I realized, where the presence would not see me kill the chicken. And so I came back here and said, what am I supposed to do? And the Master ran up to him and threw his arms around him. And he looked at the other disciples and he says, this is why I love this one so much. Because he is with the presence all the time. And I need to be near him. It's that recognition of the presence with us, the bless you. The thing which Epiphany says to us, that the light is here. It's in our world. It's with us, even in the smallest of things. That presence, when it fills us, leads us down that path of light. It fills us with that love and hope and compassion. So there's one more aspect to this. There's a story in India about a small, poor district in India, where at night there are no street lights and most of the houses are dark because oil is so expensive that they don't light their lamps very often. But as in every area in India, there's a temple where the poor can go to pray and to worship. And in this temple, there's a big brass chandelier hanging from the roof. But it has no lights in it. All it has are 100 spaces for lamps to be placed. And so when worshipers come, they each carry their lamp through the darkened streets. And they bring their light and they place it in the chandelier. And as they each come and add their light to the others, the temple grows brighter and brighter and the light gets stronger and stronger. And at the end of the night, they take note of which places are empty. And they go to visit those people who didn't bring their light to make sure they're okay, to offer words of comfort or to offer care or to offer challenge. Because they know that it's each person's light that makes that community whole. And so for those of us who believe in the power of the light, it's up to us to carry our own light through the darkness of our own lives, through the darkness of this world, to bring it to a place where it's combined with others. And then something amazing happens. It's like being here on Christmas Eve, when you light the candles and we sing Silent Night and we hold them up and this whole place glows even though all the lights are turned out. And something magical happens in that moment when our lights come together. There's a feeling that bears us up above all of the mundane stuff of the earth, above all of our fears and our concerns and our worries, and it gives us hope again, in oneness and in harmony and in peace. Or it's just me, but that's how I feel when we do that our lights have come together. And so the message of Epiphany is not just to follow a light, but is to carry our own lights through the darkness, to join our light with others, to follow the energy, to be aware of what's going on within us. So we follow the emotions and the energy that take us down an expansive, positive, life-giving route. And so we start our new year that way, hopefully being aware that while there is darkness in us, there is light. Go light! None of us is all dark. And the light is here. The presence is here always. Amen.